President Biden announced Thursday that the U.S. military mission in Afghanistan will come to an end August 31st, following 20 years of conflict. The Pentagon says that the troop withdrawal process is now 90% complete. The removal comes as the Taliban makes rapid advances across the country and fear of a civil war is rising. CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang has more.
Good afternoon.
President Biden said he moved up the deadline to pull troops out of Afghanistan because it's safer and because it is time.
We did not go to Afghanistan to nation build. And it's the right and the responsibility of the Afghan people alone to decide their future and how they want to run their country.
20 years on, the war has claimed nearly 2,500 American lives, wounded more than 20,000, and cost about $1 trillion.
Already we have members of our military whose parents fought in Afghanistan 20 years ago. Would you send their children and their grandchildren as well?
But leaving comes with risks, like a Taliban takeover.
There's a wide variety of possibilities. Worst case, civil war, breakdown, fracturing the government, fracturing of the army. That's very possible, and that would be a very bad outcome.
As danger looms, the president said the administration is relocating Afghan translators who have helped the U.S. as they wait for approval to come to America. U.S. intelligence officials predict the Afghan government could fall as soon as 6 months after the U.S. leaves, though President Biden today refuted that.
And Weijia Jiang joins me now from the White House. Weijia, with an increase of violence in Afghanistan and a possible civil war, how is the White House justifying this earlier timeline for the removal of U.S. troops?
Today, President Biden said that once he made the decision to withdraw the troops, that his advisors told him that speed equals safety. And so that's why we are seeing a rapid withdrawal right now, because he says that as the conditions deteriorate there, there is little time to waste. And so to your point, Lana, he also made very clear today that the end goal was never to unify Afghanistan. So he says that the U.S. did what it set out to do, which is to hunt down Osama bin Laden and to eliminate the threat of al-Qaeda to the homeland. And so he said that is an ongoing effort to monitor and to be able to respond to any terrorist activity. But when it comes to Afghanistan, the president's bottom line is that it is time. It is time to bring the troops back home.
That's interesting, Weijia, given that it seems like the Biden administration sees the impending problems and wants to get U.S. forces out ahead of that. I'm wondering just how concerned is the Biden administration that the Afghan government will fall?
So I asked him this very question today, Lana, after he made remarks, and I referenced a U.S. intelligence assessment that our colleague David Martin reported on that basically said there was a unanimous agreement that the Afghan government would collapse. It was just a matter of time, whether it was going to be 3 to 4 months or 1 to 2 years. As an example, other analysts predicted that it could happen within 6 months. But President Biden was very clear in answering my question and saying that's not true. He said that the Afghan forces have been equipped, they've been trained, they have all the goods that they need to protect themselves and prevent that from happening. The question is whether they do it or not. And so he said it is not inevitable that the government will fall, and he expressed some sort of optimism that perhaps that would not be the case. Asked what the U.S. would do if it were, the press secretary today told me that she wasn't going to answer anything in hypotheticals because, again, they were trying to portray a positive message that that the Afghan forces could protect themselves.
Well, what type of diplomatic presence is the U.S. expected to maintain in the country?
Well, there will be at least 600 troops that will stay behind to protect the embassy there as well as the airport there. So there will be a continued presence. It's just not the one that we've seen. And so the president said again that with regard to the military efforts, he wanted to stress that that will continue until the end of August. So it's not like an immediate withdrawal of all the troops. And as far as that diplomatic presence, he reassured that that would continue as well.
I also wanted to follow up, Weijia, on something that I know a lot of people are concerned about with the withdrawal. There are safety concerns about Afghan translators who worked with U.S. forces. They were crucial to our mission there in Afghanistan. And you mentioned that the Biden administration is trying to relocate them. Where are some of them going? And is there a timeline for bringing to the U.S. every single one of them and their families who served U.S. forces and now find themselves in danger as a result?
So for security purposes, the White House says they're not going to reveal exactly where these translators and their families are being relocated to, but we expect that it is in other countries and U.S. territories. As far as the timeline goes, the president says that many of them have already moved. And of course, the goal is to move them out if they want to leave, that is, before the troops leave at the end of August. And so he was asked this today directly, whether he was doing anything to expedite their removal, and he said that process is already going on. As for their cases here in the U.S. to see when they can arrive to the U.S., if they will get permission to do that, it's unclear if they're doing anything to expedite that visa process. But again, the administration, including the president, has been very clear that if they do want to come here eventually, if they do need help, that the country is here to do that, since they did so much, as you mentioned, Lana, to help the U.S. during the past 20 years.
They stay very much on my mind. Weijia, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Lana.